At number 37 on my fantasy playlist, December 30th, 2000, down 4 from number 33, In Sync with I Promise. This I Promise You, I believe is the name. I only wrote half the song title down on my fantasy playlist. This I Promise You. Let me write that down real quick on my fantasy playlist. Should have done this a little bit earlier. This I Promise You. This was one of their follow-ups. They had a huge hit, that bang single called Bye Bye Bye. Remember that? Back in the spring and summer of 2000, and that went to number one, I believe, on Billboard's Hot 100. If it didn't go to number one, it came pretty dang close to it. I Promise didn't do quite as well, if I remember correctly, as Bye Bye, but still pretty big record. But you learn some amazing things when you do research. Guess who wrote this record? Richard Marx. Remember Richard Marx back in the 80s? Don't Mean Nothing, Should Have Known Better. And Angelina was another one he did. Now, we're spilling into the early 90s. Angelia, 1990. And he did a song called, does anybody remember Hazard by Richard Marx? It was a murder mystery song back in the spring of 92. It was one of his probably one of his most brilliant records. Well, anyway, he wrote this song, but now, here's how this came about. NSYNC was hot. Their first album just blew up. The band became wildly popular. Their record label was looking for a follow-up. They approached Richard Marx. They asked him, hey, do you have anything good for NSYNC? Do you have any good songs stored away somewhere that NSYNC could use? And Richard Marx said, yeah, I do. And he lied. He didn't. But he wrote This I Promise You that night. Whipped up a demo. He sent it to the record label. The record label fell in love with the demo, and they approached Richard Marx again. They asked him, hey, we like your demo, man. We like your song. How would you like to produce this record for NSYNC? Well, about a couple of weeks later, Richard Marx, he flew down to Florida. NSYNC was recording there at a secret location. Because they were so popular, they had problems with fans gathering around them. And they recorded This I Promise You. One other thing I want to mention. I don't know really how to say this. You see, here's the thing. When you talk about bands, you talk about musicians, some of them, they're just in it for, having affairs and having, having affairs with the opposite sex and in it for the money and the fame and all that. But you got some who are a lot more ambitious. They got a vision. Justin Timberlake had that vision, and Richard Marx noticed it. He noticed that while the other on the downtime, during downtime, when the other group members they were playing ping pong or they were talking on their cell phones, Justin Timberlake was writing music. He was playing music. He was staying busy, burning with ambition. And Richard Marx, he knew then that Justin Timberlake, he was going to fly as a solo artist. Well, here's a very young Justin Timberlake in 2000 with NSYNC. But This I Promise You at number 37 on my fantasy playlist.